Balancing a 60-hour work week job, I've decided to do the program 5 days a week, 1 hour a night, taking a significant pay cut. So I've started a Patreon page, which is Patreon, Patreon/SportsScope, spelled the same way at the bottom of the screen you see there. For $5 a month, 17 cents a day, you can help support the program. You ask yourself, why SportsScope? Well, I bring in such big names such as Al Borges, former Auburn offensive coordinator, and I cover the big news in sports that the corporate media will not cover. If you want to contribute more than $5 a month, you can go use the Cash App. The cash tag is SportsScope, again spelled the same way, or you can go to the Zelle app, sportscope@gmail.com. SportsScope has about 5,000 followers and growing. If you want to advertise on the program, you can email me. The word is SportsScope, spelled the same way again, at gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the program. Oh, everybody, now I'm live here on All Links on this fourth day of October, 10-4. A big 10-4, right? Anyways, had a long day at the day job today, but I got in time to prepare for the program accurately. Tom Brady looks like that is official. New York Post, TMZ, everybody's reporting that his wife is now filing for both parties, him and his wife. They're filing for divorce. So I'll give you my thoughts on that here in a little bit. Plus, Antonio Brown, something he did, burning another bridge, and play a little comment that Shannon Sharp had to say about that on his show with Skip Bayless there, the Undisputed. Also, going to go over the it was a college football firings. This is the most I've seen. We're about 5 weeks in the season, and there's job openings coming up left and right, and Auburn coach still hasn't been fired yet. That's very interesting there. Also, we'll go over Russell Wilson, their troubles, but I think that's still a little bit overplayed. The Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. Finish up on my news and notes, the college football, of course, my Power Five. But first, Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones says today on his weekly radio show, I don't know if it's a call-in or whatnot. It says it's 105.3 The Fan. I imagine this is out of Dallas area. And he says Dak Prescott will not play versus the Rams. Jerry Jones says, this is from Clarence Hill, who's followed, I think Hill has covered Dallas for about 25 years. Him, Ed Warder, those guys have covered this team for a very long time. I follow about 2 or 3 of there. It feels like they've got about 3 or 4 reporters. It tells you how popular they are. They're the most popular brand in all of sports. They're the most valuable brand. According to Forbes magazine. So Dak will not play versus the Rams. Jerry Jones says he can't grip the ball well enough to play, but there is no quarterback controversy. Jones says there is no scenario where the Cowboys would stick with Cooper Rush over a healthy Prescott. Quote, no, as I see it right today. You know, he starts off with there's no quarterback controversy, Pickles. And then he says, as I see it right today. Now, not to get too far ahead. Now, last night, the 49ers, when they get in a slump, they just play the Rams, and then they feel better about themselves. I mean, they physically manhandled the Rams last night. That is 5 out of 6 that they beat the Rams. No, the Rams beat them in the playoffs, but they beat the Rams 5 out of 6. And the Rams are going to be ticked off. They're going to play Sunday at home against the Cowboys. Okay, now they're coming off of a short week, but they are the Super Bowl champs. They've only got 2 losses. They're giving up a lot of sacks, and of course, there's interceptions, and often there's pick sixes when it comes to Matt Stafford at quarterback. He has the free reign to let it loose. Looks like Allen Robinson's not playing up to par. I say all that because Dallas plays at LA on Sunday. That's going to be a great game. We will talk about that in full on Friday with Mad New Yorker. And, of course, now tomorrow I have John McGraw, also known as Mac. Mac will be on. This is the first time Mac's been on my program. I've been working with Mac for over a few years, and I'll ask him about, his thoughts on Jones and this Cooper Rush thing. But going back to Jerry Jones. So Jones says this as of today, and I like the fact that he is still leaving it open. He's still leaving it open because, I was reading through the QBRs and everything, and look at this company. By the way, number one QBR in the league is Patrick Mahomes, led by Tua. Like I said, Tua's a great player. He just can't stay healthy. He's not built for this league. Then you've got Josh Allen, number 3. Those are the top 2 dogs in the league, by the way. When you've got Patrick Mahomes, number 1 QBR in the NFL right now, Tua is 2, but he cannot stay healthy. Then you got Josh Allen. So you've got the whole league right there. And you know who's at number 4? Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush is at number 4. And despite the fact of being sacked 4 times, he's got a 95.9 rating, but he's got that QBR. It's 4th in the NFL. It's over Lamar Jackson, Geno Smith, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Tom Brady, Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow, and, of course, Kyler Murray. So he's looking at that. He's looking at the ability to get rid of the ball quickly. And he's looking at the fact that they are getting in and out of plays quickly. They're running the ball better with this guy, And I don't know if this offensive coordinator feels obligated because of Dak's money last year, this Keelan Moore, to throw the ball more because they're paying Dak $40 million a year. That's probably not best for the team. And see, with this guy, I think Moore's got more free reign to call the game the way he feels like what the defense is giving them. Okay? That's what I'm starting to get out of Keelan Moore, the offensive coordinator, with Cooper Rush while they're making this kind of run. But number 4 in QBR, he's 4-0. By the way, last year when he played, they went up to Minnesota and beat them. You know what happened that next game? The very next game, which was Dak's first game back. Remember, Dak was hurt last year. And they get blown out at home by Denver. Denver blows their doors off. It was like 35-0. It was some insane amount of game pickles. So you remember that. And that Denver team fired their coach. I think, what was it? I want to say it was either Bridgewater or Drew Lock. It wasn't no world-beating quarterback they had. But they got blown out at home, Dak's first game back. And so Jerry Jones, by the way, happy birthday. It's October. He's going to be 80 years old this month. He's not 55, okay? So my thing is, he's looking at this, and I'm going to ask, like I said, I've gotten a lot of different opinions on this. And you look at the fact that the blowout in the first game, Dak went back. You look at the 6 rushing attempts per game average more with Rush there during that 4-0 start. And you look at the fact that Dak Prescott is 12-24 against playoff teams. So only thing that's keeping you from playing Dak is Jerry Jones's ego. That's the only thing that's keeping that I could even make the excuse to go back because of the money. What has Dak really done? Jim Jeffcoat was on the program, and he talked about a guy like Troy Aikman. Well, Troy Aikman was a number 1 overall pick at that point. He was drafted in 89. Jim brought up 1991, and that was a totally different situation. You know, this guy's a 4th round pick. He's got franchise money, but he's also 12. Now, mind you, this guy's been in the league, 5 years now? 6 years? So that was the 3rd year for Troy Aikman. Okay, he was still developing. You pretty much know what you got out of Dak at this point. And I like Dak. I'm a big Dak guy, but this is all business here, you know? So you look at what you already have and the fact that you're paying the money. And I'm not saying this guy is a world beater, but the offense runs more fluid through this guy. It's just so apparently obvious. And part of it I do put on the offensive coordinator. I do think he gets too pass happy. He abandons the run a lot quicker when Dak was quarterback last year. When teams had a leg up on the running game, and you seem like the running backs were getting disengaged. Zeke Elliott, okay? So this is something, and I hope that Jones isn't just pulling our leg. I really hope that if they go across the country, and I'm leaning on it, they're 4-point underdog. If they go across the country and go to LA and beat the champs there, and now this guy is 4-0 this year, 5-0 total, you got to keep him into the Philadelphia game. You got to keep him in. You got to keep him in until he loses or just totally falls apart. Now, this could be a moot point, 4th and QBR and all that. Maybe he does go to LA and get smoked. Maybe, and the Rams have a tendency or playing really well off losses. So it could be a moot point. Dak all of a sudden, he can grip the ball. But my thing is, if he's gripping the ball now, I think Jerry's going to say, won't you just let's keep Cooper in there. We're paying you a lot of money. You've already made a lot of money. Let's just wait till maybe after our bye week or something of that nature. Let's give this a few more weeks. You've got your guaranteed money. What's hurt it? Is it going to tear the team apart? No, because the players watch shows like this. The players watch shows like this. Jerry Jones listens to, heck, he's on the show. He's on the radio show, you know. And, like I said last week, we talked about the Drew Bledsoe thing, the $100 million contract, 10-year contract, okay? He does the 10-year contract. And then, and then that's very next year, that very next season, 3 games in, he loses because of injury. A lot of that money was still guaranteed. Plus, Bledsoe was number 1 overall pick. He didn't care. He said, okay, he got his Super Bowl ring. He got traded to Buffalo, played a few years in Buffalo. And then he later went to Dallas and had a pretty decent career there. He got to a Super Bowl as a quarterback starter. He won as a backup. The same thing. This Dallas team could very well be that they're the number 1 or number 2 team in the – if you look at defense and physicality, they could be the number 1 or number 2 team in the NFC. Possibly Tampa gets better as the season goes along. The Eagles look really good. They're pretty high on my power ranking this week. But there's no dominant – again, I said this earlier on. There's no dominant team in the NFC. The Rams aren't dominant. They got offensive line issues, okay? The 49ers, really good defense. They actually made my top 5 after looking through yesterday. But they're not a dominant. They've got a left tackle that's out 4 to 5 weeks with a high ankle sprain, Trent Williams. Now, they looked okay last night, but we'll see about that. We'll see, but they're not dominant. This team has some balance on it, this Dallas. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Let's see. Other news and notes here from the I'm starting to hear a lot of stuff about Denver and Nathaniel Hackett. When you go to a new team, not every situation, new quarterback, new team, is going to start off like the Stafford did with the Rams. For one thing, it's, Russell Wilson, not only did he go to a new team, the coach is new to the team. This is not a Matt Stafford, Sean McVay situation where the culture set in place. The other players know the coach. They know the routine. They know all their – So you're starting over, new coach, new quarterback, which is the highest paid guy. Coaching's big in this league. And they ran into, like I predicted, a very desperate, pressured Raider team who won the game. And it was a fumble. It's kind of a fluke fumble there at the end. The guy comes, picks it up and scores. But, I was looking at Wilson's numbers here. 3 touchdowns, and he ran in one. He had a 124 rating. Now, they lost their running back, Javonte Williams, ACL. They brought in Latavius Murray from the Saints. They brought him in, and they've still got Melvin Gordon and this Boone guy. I think they'll be okay at running back. I mean, that's a big hit there with Javonte Williams, but I think they'll be okay at running back. I noticed that Gregory's going to be out a few weeks. They're pretty deep on their defensive line. I think they win Thursday. Today's Tuesday. I think they win Thursday. I think they'll beat the Colts on Thursday at home. But, and of course, as far as Nathaniel Hackett, got to give him a few more weeks to get all this developed. He might not be the coach, but now that you've already extended Wilson, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to keep Wilson. You want to at least keep him into next year and see how this thing works out. There's no way I would fire him after this year. But I'm starting to read that and see that from the Denver side of things. As far as the Raiders are concerned, I still see them being around a 500 team. They're not really a great team. They put too much money on Devontae Adams. I'm not sure how this Josh McDaniels thing is going to work. Hey, as funny as Mark Davis can be sometimes, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't fire him after a year or so. This guy doesn't have the best personality to manage a team. In the past, he's had that. Now, he's much older now. We'll see how this plays out. But the fact that Davis had that talk with him last week made me think maybe there's something that's gotten back to Davis that we don't know about yet about Josh McDaniels. He had a big problem with Jay Cutler, and he just kept making it worse. A lot of these former coaches that are of Bill Belichick, and I was reading it in this Mike Westhoff book. By the way, Mike will probably be on in a few weeks. Former special teams coach from the Jets. He lives in Fort Myers. That's the hardest part of that was the toughest area that was hit by the hurricane. His assistant got back to me the other night. But this guy worked under Eric Mangini with the Jets and coached under here. And he said the same thing. He was an active coach. He said the same thing about Mangini that a lot of us say about the Belichick assistants is they try to be Belichick instead of being themselves and using some of Bill Belichick's principles and work ethic. They're trying to be Belichick, trying to be the guy who says no comment or day by day. How is Tom Brady and Gisele's marriage day by day? What do you think about the hurricane day by day? He starts that noise. But when you do that and you haven't proven anything as a head coach, the players are going to resent that. So there may be something with Josh McDaniels that later comes out. It usually always does, right? So that's something to keep up with. As far as Denver, still very early, 4 weeks in. Got a big win over the 49ers a couple of weeks ago. They beat Houston 2-2. The Seattle's a little bit, just a pinch better. Geno Smith is actually pretty high up there in QBR too. More of a fluke than anything because there's no pressure on this Seattle team. No pressure. Let this thing develop a little bit more. I'm starting to see some movement in their offense, some fluidity there, and I think they're going to get better as the season goes along. Okay? All right. Finishing up news and notes. Let's go to Indianapolis, okay? Now, the Colts, by the way, Jim Irsay, Jack Hirsch made a really good point. He says nobody's talking about the fact that Frank Reich might get fired. Nobody's talking about that. And I thought, well, they are now because you brought it up. And now that I'm thinking about it, yeah. And that was 2 weeks ago. He's supposed to be back on Thursday. Well, CBS put out this stat here Fewest points per game in NFL. Colts at 14.3, Bears at 16.0, Broncos at 16.5. Now, the Broncos are still developing. You see some promise there. The Colts did beat the Chiefs, who looked like world beaters Sunday, but 2 weeks ago they beat the Chiefs. But they're the lowest scoring team in NFL. Remember, they were shut out in week 2 at Jacksonville. 24-0. You know, and so I'm thinking to myself that there's very much a possibility that this could be another one of those surprise firing, but not really surprise because they went through 2 quarterbacks already and they made the big trades. But I wasn't really one of those, people who's thinking to myself that Matt Ryan's going to tear the world up. I think that he got real frustrated, he being Jim Irsay, with that loss and probably overreacted with the Carson Wentz deal there and wanting to get another quarterback. Immediately. That's a veteran. Forget drafting that. He just kind of got impatient. He being Jim Irsay and made the command. That's what I'm kind of getting from that. Okay. But as far as Tennessee is concerned, got to give them high praise there because Buckner was he was questionable, but he ended up playing. DeForest Buckner is one of the better defensive tackles in the league. Really good for run defense. Darius Leonard played. Now, he got a concussion, got out, but Darius Leonard came back. You had Michael Pittman back again. Of course, you had another week with him. And it looks like Jonathan Taylor played. And he had a toe injury, but he's practiced. He only missed 1 day of practice. But he comes in, and Tennessee holds him to 42 yards. And nobody else got any rushing yards. So that was really good. Now, Tennessee also ran for 114 yards with the backup left tackle, with a replacement at left guard. And Derrick Henry, 114 yards. He had 3 catches for 33 yards, And so that is a big improvement for Tennessee. Tennessee that have their starting safety. Anani Hooker was out. I read that Kevin Byard was going to scratch, but he played. He was questionable. He ended up playing, but he got Bud Dupree back. And quite frankly, Tannehill was near perfect. Tannehill was 17 of 21, near perfect quarterback rating. Now, Trayvon Burks, now he got turf toe. He's going to be out for a while. But they still got Robert Woods, the key Westbrook. You still got these young guys. And you got the tight end there. I think they're going to be okay. I will say this, Tannehill's running the ball himself more now. That may be his best statistical game of the season Sunday. And that was against a pretty good defense on the road. So, life is not dead. At the beginning of the season, I said they're going to be about a 9-8 team and win the division. But I can also see with their injuries, with who they had to replace before their injuries, I can see a scenario where they could just, start to rebuild now because I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. They're not in the league with the Kansas City or Buffalo, even though they beat both last year. These things have kind of changed from year to year. I do not think that now. They're not a real contender. They would have to have some serious breaks come playoff time to be a Super Bowl contender. But yeah, Taylor's hurt, Pickle says, and Tennessee played really well. The 24-17, I did not expect them to play that well. They have made adjustments. Their offensive coordinator made adjustments with their routes and whatnot. And that was a big win. Now they got Washington coming up. They have a chance to take back control here. Jacksonville plays Houston. That is not a given for Jacksonville. I like Jacksonville. They're very young. They're still making mistakes, but they're trending upwards. Okay? But, this is something to watch, though, as far as the Colts are concerned. Same thing with the Giants. Giants are the worst 3-1 team I've ever seen. Daniel Jones, he hurt his ankle again. By the way, Daniel Jones has had 3 ankle injuries where he's missed games. 3. This guy, I think it was the rookie year, was like 2019 or something. It's like his third or fourth year. I can't remember. But he's multiple head injury because he's always running crazy sideways, tripping over his own feet. He's almost like Sam Darnold. A little quicker than Sam Darnold. Got an ankle injury, may play against Green Bay on Sunday, but you're starting to see the pattern with him, and they're the worst 3-1 team in the league. But you got to give credit where it's due. 3 wins is 3 wins. I like what this coach, the ball, so far so good. He's clever coaching. Kind of reminds me a little bit of, in his coaching style, of a Mike Vrabel. Kind of reminds me of a Mike Vrabel, you know. But like I said at the beginning of the season, I said that go about 8-9 because they were in a lot of those games last year, and they simply quit on Joe Judge. Joe Judge was way over his head. We've talked about that before. But Daniel Jones, that's him. He's somewhat of a reckless player. He's always getting himself hurt. He can't throw anybody open. He has to have a perfect running game. There's so much that has to go right for him. They're definitely going to be in the quarterback market. But my thing is, they even had cap problems, and he's still on his rookie contract. So they're going to have to clean up. Joe Sheehan, general manager, who's assistant brought over from Buffalo. He's off to a good start right now. But now they've had some injuries on their offensive line, I want to say. Thibodeau got hurt again last week, and I'm not sure how long he's going to play. Their draft picks from this past year. But my guess is their cap's eventually going to get situated. They're a scrappy team. Things are eventually work out. It's probably not going to be this year or next, but they have to get a quarterback right. And I don't know how they're going to do it. The good news is that there is a big, heavy quarterback draft coming up next year. I'm telling you guys, this guy, Hendon Hooker, looks good out of Tennessee. I'm going to talk about a guy in a few minutes from Wake Forest. He's got a quick release. I'm not even mentioning Bryce Young. I'm not so sure about the Ohio State quarterback, C.J. Stroud. Just not sure. I know the fact that he played for Ohio State, that kind of is a strike against him. But, hey, it's been a strike against the Alabama quarterbacks too, and now they're starting to look much better, so I don't want to hold that. But Stroud is going to be one of those guys. The Kentucky quarterback is getting high praise, even though they lost last week, Levis. So you're starting – this could be a 4 or 5 deep. You know, these guys may look good. A lot of them look good early, and then they end up busting out. I get it. But, hey, if you can get 2 or 3 or even 2 out of one draft, Baltimore got Lamar Jackson and Buffalo got Josh Allen to help them get to playoff games. You know, I'm not a great, huge Lamar Jackson guy, but he has won 72% of his regular season games. He's doing better at that 50% margin that Flacco had last year or when he was playing. So Daniel Jones, that's what the Giants are going to be in for. But I think maybe they have their head coach. 4 games in, looks like their head coach makes good halftime adjustments. I didn't see him winning the Carolina game. They won that. I didn't see him. I picked them to lose to the Bears, and they found a way to beat that Bears. Bears got a good defense. Bears got a good defense. They got some playmakers. They need some help on their offensive line. And Leonard Williams was out, and they still beat the Bears. That's their best interior defensive players, Leonard Williams, the Giants. So, you know, it's not the end of the world. At least they're not a dumpster fire. At least they're not a dumpster fire, you know? So, okay. So those are my news and notes from pretty much the rest of the league. I don't think the Rams are in bad shape. I think that they're still adjusting to their new personnel, their left tackle. Allen Robinson, a lot of people saying the same thing. Now, Allen Robinson was hurt last year. The Rams got they overpaid for him. They should have not put that money in Robertson. They probably should have tried to get a Terran Armstead at left tackle just to be on the safe side, a much higher graded left tackle than this Noteboom guy who they have now. Remember, Whitworth retired. That's where I'm starting to see that they made a big mistake right there. I probably wouldn't have put that much into Bobby Wagner nor Allen Robertson. Fix that offensive line. You put some good defensive players. Everybody plays better around the Aaron Donald defensively. But I would have probably fixed that. But hindsight's 2020. I didn't have them going back. They have the hardest schedule in the league. I told you guys that. I did not have them coming back. They had the hardest schedule in the league, and I still stand by that, making the Super Bowl. But I think they're going to be terrible. No, they still have a clean shot at the playoffs. Yeah, of course. And they probably bounce back. There's a good chance they bounce back and beat Dallas this week. I'm not leaning that way. I'm leaning the other way. So that's my thoughts on the Rams. Real quick take there. Okay, now let's go to the Power Five, all right? You've heard my takes on just about everybody that was worth something talking about. Let's start with number 5. Okay, 49ers. I can't believe I'm saying this. No Trent Williams, no problem. Going back to that Rams game last night, all right? In every category, they're almost at the top of every run defense, pass defense, total defense, yards per play. Defensively, the 49ers led by, I can't remember that linebacker's name. I wanted to say Bowman, but it's the guy. But anyways, I think it was the guy that got the interception. Just about every category, the 49ers have the best defense. I think eventually things are going to get rolling about where they were last year. As far as Jimmy Garoppolo was concerned, and as far as the fluidity with Deebo Samuel, Ayuk, Kittle, I just see them continuing to getting better and better every week. So when you're that far up on every defensive standing, and you run the ball like that, and you know you can get it down the field, they need to open it up a little bit more. That's been the big knock on Kyle Shanahan. They really should have won that Denver game. But either way, they're 2-2. Guess what? Everybody in the NFC West is 2-2. They're 2-2. So the 49ers, they got them at 5th. Some people will say that's a little high, but they got to a slow start last year, and they got to the NFC Championship game, guys, last year. So, and quite frankly, this team, that Kinlaw, I think he was the guy from the South Carolina guy that he got into an issue with the reporter from Sports Illustrated, a young guy, and threatened to beat him up or something. Well, he's playing great. There's another guy on the defensive line. He's playing really good for the 49ers. Okay. So Warner. Yeah. I think that's the guy's name. Warner, the linebacker here. So anyways, I got them at 5, maybe a little high, but hey, it is what it is. Green Bay. Okay, Green Bay at 4. A lot of people probably won't like this either. They almost lost to the Patriots with a third-string quarterback. I tell you what I did like. I like the fact that David Bakhtiari's got 2 games under his belt. And I like the fact that Rodgers is getting more and more relaxed in the pocket now. And he's starting to get back to the old Rodgers a few years ago. This Romeo Doubs, Fred Warner, that's it. Yeah. Fred Warner, some sites, and I want to say the Pro Football Focus has him as the best all-around linebacker in the league right now. Fred Warner. Okay. But Green Bay, Dave Bakhtiari's back. Romeo Doubs, leading receiver for the team, by the way. Well, that's only going to get better. He's a rookie. Allen Lazard, never a number 1. And then, of course, you got Watson, the other rookie that they took much higher in the draft. And then Robert Tonyan, mind you, he's coming back from an ACL injury. They still got their Aaron Jones 1-2 punch there. Rasheed Douglas playing really good corner on the other side. And, of course, Jaire Alexander not playing to the par before his injury, but he's still playing pretty well. They're only going to get better. They're going to beat Minnesota when they play him in Green Bay. He's going to develop more time with these receivers because he's going to have more time to throw because he's got Jenkins at right tackle back And he's got 2 in a row here for Bakhtiari. And I could start to see his confidence build. That offense is only going to get better and better and better. I'm more of take care of that interior. Don't worry about the exterior, okay? Don't worry about the exterior as much as the interior. You may have a few bad games to start the season with the exterior, but as long as you got that interior, which means the offensive line, things are going to get better as the season goes along. Now, if you go the other way and you got all these great skill players and you got a subpar offensive line and the quarterback's always having to get rid of the ball super fast or he's super athletic, it's going to catch up with you because he's going to get hit more often than not. See the Bears and what's his name? Fields. Justin Fields, though. So the line is coming back for them. And I think they're going to take over that division eventually. So, plus, hey, they've been at 1 seed last year, year before that. I don't see this team going far, but I could see that they're going to get better. And I could see them trending upwards. Okay, so number 5, San Francisco. Number 4, Green Bay. Number 3, this is most people's team's number 1, Philadelphia. They're 10th in points allowed. They're 4th in points scored. And they're 2nd in yards. But now Hurts is 9th in quarterback rating, okay? He's 9th. He's having a great year. But you know what? Hurts has only thrown 4 touchdowns. He's only thrown for 4 touchdowns in the whole season in 4 games. 1 touchdown a game. Not really setting the world on fire. He's tied for 20th in the league. Let's see how he matches up, for instance, this week. I think this is going to be a good test for him. It's a road game. They're going to be playing Arizona. Kyler Murray. They're playing against another guy who was, by the way, that's a storyline too. Kyler Murray also transferred from Texas A&M, if you guys don't recall. He transferred to Oklahoma playing under Lincoln Riley. Tua beats out Jalen Hurts at Alabama, and Hurts transfers from Alabama to Oklahoma, and he plays for Lincoln Riley up at Oklahoma. Now, Kyler Murray, he becomes the number 1 overall pick. He wins the Heisman. Tua doesn't do as good as a Kyler Murray. He actually falls to the 2nd round. The rest is history. So those 2 are going to play on Sunday. But, the Eagles, they're undefeated. This is their first true road game. You say Washington, I watched this thing called All or Nothing on the Eagles. And they take a Amtrak Pickles to Washington to play. And then they take it to the Giants. They take a train to Washington. They take a train. So that's nothing. That's like taking an airplane from Nashville to Atlanta. You're on the ground longer than you're in the air. It's like less than 45 minutes. It's a 4-hour drive. So that's, you say, well, what about Detroit? Well, Detroit probably has the worst defense in the league. Detroit, one of the best offenses in the league, but you can run on Detroit. You can throw on Detroit. They are 29th to 32nd in every defensive category. Okay. Hutchinson's only one guy, Aiden Hutchinson's only one guy. So Philadelphia 3, pretty close on offense and defense. But these next 2 teams that I'm going to talk about, today, they would be favored against Philadelphia on a neutral field. And that's Buffalo at number 2. Buffalo, 2nd in defense, by the way. 4th in offense, number 1 in yards, 2nd in points in offense. Buffalo has a loss, but would have been favored against Philadelphia if the game was held today. Okay. The Bills, they do lack a running game from their running back. They're about middle tier running team. They do need to continue, quote, continue. They still use Devin Singletary in the flat. They run Devin Singletary. He's still proven to be the guy that this team is going to run under. I do think that he's going to be that guy. Zach Moss is kind of falling back. The other running back is falling back for him too. I can't remember his name. But they're still using Isaiah McKenzie in the slot there. I want to say Jay Crowder got a little banged up in that last game because I had him, of course, on fantasy, and he got a little banged up. Still a potent offense, potent passing attack. Probably, and Jim Jeffcoat said this, they probably got the best defense overall in the NFL. Definitely the best pass rush. They've got some cornerbacks that's coming back. By the way, Tre'Davious White, within the next week or so, he's going to come back and play. That is an all-pro cornerback. They didn't lose both safeties. They lost Micah Hyde for the year, but they got Poyer's going to be back, by the way. So they're not as in bad shape as I thought. Offensive line is decent there. It's not great, but it is good enough. You know, and this team with their defensive line may be their biggest unit strength-wise of the whole team. Some will say, what about the receiving core? No. Rossanu, that's the second-year guy out of Miami. We know about Von Miller, Ed Oliver. These guys are pretty good. And they're deep. They're like 6, 7, 8 deep on that defensive pass rush. And Trayvon Evans made some plays. That linebacker, I forgot about him. He's a pretty close to a Pro Bowl level type of player as well. At linebacker, they don't really have a lot of blatant weaknesses other than an actual old school running game with the running back. Other than that, this team is potent. They're high flying. They've hit a little rough patch here 2 weeks in a row. Even with all those starters out, they still almost beat Miami. They banged up Tua, you know, and now Miami's in a little disarray there. So they're going to be a feared team. Probably, like I said at the beginning of the season, probably be a 3 to 4 loss team. They're not going to go undefeated. Never said they would go undefeated. You know, they won a close game. You know, Colin Cowherd's always saying they had the Mike Tyson effect, whether they either knock you out early, they can't win close games in one score. Well, they won a close game. They were down 17 early and came back and won. They scored 20 unanswered and won 23-20. So this team is again, they're going to get better because he's breaking in some new receivers. They're going to be a team that I do think that will get better as the season goes along with Ken Dorsey calling this game. I know that he's hearing people like me saying, get that running game going. Get that, because you're going to have the weather's only going to get worse in Buffalo as you go down the stretch. Josh Allen's going to get paid more money eventually towards the cap. They're going to start losing people. So just pace and space there, you know. They're my number 2 team. Number 1's Kansas City. They're back on top. Run defense this week, they only allowed 3 yards rushing to Tampa. And they're 11th in rushing themselves, and they're 7th in passing. That's the most balanced team out there is the Chiefs. Now, sometimes they'll lay an egg. They'll lay an egg on the road. Like the Colts. The Colts are the lowest scoring team in the league, and they went up there and beat Kansas City because they had their running game going for one day. They had their running game going. There was a special teams blunder that cost them that game. But if you see the way they played Sunday, that's when they're motivated. That's how they can play when they want to. I talked about this Isaiah Pacheco, this running back from Rutgers there. Not to mention the fact that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is fully healthy. Look at that. 11th in rushing. They're running the ball more. They have a good running game versus a no running game for their running backs compared to Buffalo. Buffalo and Kansas City are the 2 best teams in the league, both conferences, period. I got Kansas City over Buffalo. They've got the red zone schemes. Pickle says, yeah, they make great adjustments at halftime. They still are fresh. with their schemes in the red zones. I keep thinking that Reed is going to run out of some kind of tricks. There was one play where the ball was hiked directly to the running back, and the running back gives it to another running back, and then the other running back scores. I mean, they just got so many ways they can come at you, and they've had a good draft. Their free agencies turned out well. Juju Smith-Schuster's making big catches. Valdez-Scandalin's getting downfield. Those are two new guys as well. They're only going to get better. They are only going to get better with Andy Reid coaching this team. Their defensive coordinator, he stepped his game up there. They can go at one speed. They can go at another speed. They can do a 2-minute offense, a 4-minute offense, or they can do a 30-second offense like they did last year. Even though they don't have Tyreek Hill, no Tyreek Hill, no problem. If you ask me, they scored 41 points on Sunday night. That's when they're motivated. They could blow out anybody in the league. So they're my number one team. Again, this is week 4, guys. This is the power ranking from week 4. Okay. All righty. A couple of things here. Now, Tom Brady's going through a divorce. Now, it's the guy is he's the greatest NFL football player of all time. All right. And the New York Post reported today that they're hiring attorneys for divorce. All right. She was spotted in the Miami gym, according to TMZ and New York Post. Pretty good about this stuff. Dirty laundry, like the Don Henley song says. She's been down there ever since he said he's going to come back. She's not staying. He's in Tampa. She's in Miami. They didn't even get together during the hurricane issue. Now they're looking at joint custody and all this stuff. And, it's just, he just cannot let that NFL go, and I'm not a married guy, never been I've almost got married a couple times. One really particular time around my college years there, around 23, but I haven't. But I will say this, ladies. I would not don't ask man or woman, anybody to just give up something they love. That it's really inside of them. And I understand the flip side is, hey, man, the guy's got kids. They got preteen kids. You want to spend time with the kid. And I understand what she's saying there if that's part of it. But if you're just worried about the injuries and everything and what he's already went through, but do you want to see the guy unhappy and lost? And I agree with her. He should move on. I think he should have moved on 6 years ago from the NFL. But it is what it is, and that's what it seems like it is. Now, of course, when something bad happens, you kind of find out who your friends are, and who your friends are not. Antonio Brown posted a picture on his Instagram, the one that's out of a job, of him hugging Giselle after the Super Bowl and made some snide comment about this. Kind of like he's celebrating the fact that Brady's getting a divorce, And is it typical for Antonio Brown to burn every bridge in his life? Every person that's ever helped him, a guy who moved him into his house, who stuck his neck out for a guy who almost got into a fight or threatened to beat up a general manager for the Raiders and Mike Mayock, and then you want to turn around and take a shot at this guy and basically say something flirting with his wife, troll him like that. Also, Antonio Brown was spotted in a video of him tacky human being. There's a video of him showing his rear end to a woman in Dubai in a swimming pool. And the woman swam away, and I'm thinking to myself, man, you keep breaking laws up in that place, and you might not ever get out of there up in the Middle East in Dubai. They don't play around over there. He's a guy I don't think it's going to end well for him in his life, and I don't think there's a real possibility for Tom Brady in football. It don't end well for him because he plays too long. That's what I think about that. So Shannon Sharpe, off of Undisputed, he had something to say about that little stunt and comment that former Baltimore Raven and former Baltimore Raven and of course, hold on. I'm gonna. Yeah, he made some comment about it, and I can't remember what it was. I'm on my bleep or something like that. Like, come holler at me, Gisele, something like that. Antonio Brown said something that could get him punched in the mouth or even worse. I'll put it that way. I'll put it lightly. That's what I'm saying. So this is Shannon Sharpe on Antonio Brown getting out of line about the Tom Brady stuff.
Nobody's gonna waste their time. And last night took the cake for me. I'm done. Everybody should be done. After he posted Tom Brady's wife and said what he said, that man took your ass in. That man revived your career. Nobody was gonna give you a chance. And you take a shot at this man's wife. You do that, AB? I brought you at home. Because every last one, every time someone try to correct AB, all y'all do is like, hey, let that man live. Let that man do this. Let that man do the under the NFL. Nobody's gonna waste their time. And last night took the cake for me. I'm done.
Yeah. And he's not gonna get a job anyways. I mean, he's one of those people. Brown is burned every bridge that he's ever had. And it's probably going to be a sad ending for that guy. Going back to the Brady divorce, what would I do? You're in Tampa. And last I checked, Tony Dungy, he played in the league for a little while. He was a cornerback for the Steelers back in the day, back in the 70s. Now, he's coached in this league for over 35, 40 years. Spiritual guy, really, really respected around the league. I would consult with a guy like him. If I'm Brady, I would consult with the Tony Dungy about this situation and see what I can get done. You know, seems like a guy who's a little bit lost, knows to have that void with the NFL. I didn't see anything like infidelity, anything like that. But for the record, she's worth more than he is. I looked this up online, and I want to say this is through Forbes. She's worth like $400 million. He's worth like $250. So this whole that he's going to be broke and all that, well, she's actually worth more than he is. She's a Brazilian supermodel. And, you know, they've been married for quite a while. I think it's his second marriage. But I don't know. Then again, I know he's got a child by another woman. I don't know if they married or not. But I will say this. Like I said, I would talk to a guy like Tony Dungy. As far as his play is concerned, Sharpe cut him no slack. What Pickles says. Sharpe hit him up. Bravo. Yeah, I like it. They live in Florida. I think he's going to be fine. I think she's going to be fine. As far as his play is concerned, I think his play will be fine. I think it'll be a sanctuary. He'll probably play better. Matter of fact, he may play another year or two now to help him get over this divorce. Now, I wouldn't do that, but I'm looking at the kind of person that he is from everything I've said and everything I've read over the years about Tom Brady. That's what I see happening with Tom Brady. So is he going to be fine? Yes. Play-wise, we talked about this before with Kobe Bryant. With stuff in Eagle, Colorado, I thought it was going to affect his game. The best basketball of his career in 2003 and 2004. He departmentalized that stuff, and he focused like a laser brain. And Brady's stats are really good. They're still really good. You know, they're breaking in some new receivers. They're getting back healthy again. They've had 4 offensive linemen. That's a big deal. That's what people's not talking about. 4 new offensive linemen they're breaking in. They only got 3 yards rushing last week. Even Tom Brady, 3 yards rushing. There's only so much you can do. You need balance in this league. So they're still working on that. And he may play another year or two. Now, he may take one hit too many, but that is a real possibility there, folks. Okay? A few quick college notes here. I haven't seen this many firings early in the season in the college game. And I noticed that Paul Chryst from Wisconsin got fired. Now, and I knew Scott Frost was on the hot seat. This guy from Auburn, I see him getting fired any moment now. They blew a lead to LSU. I see him getting fired at any moment. Herman Edwards was fired. Okay. And, of course, the coach we talked about last week with Deion Sanders, the coach from Georgia Tech, was fired. That's a lot of firings for the month. We're just now the 1st of October. These guys are trying to get on top of things. Paul Chryst is $11 million buyout, by the way. Wisconsin was serious about moving on. You know, I mean, they're getting blown out by they got beat by Illinois. They were blown out really bad and embarrassed by Ohio State. They're just not – they weren't living up to par the last 2 years. When you bring in a new coach, it's always the second and third year when you really start to see if he's good or not. And quite frankly, you need both. You need recruiting and coaching. I understand everybody can't recruit in number one. There's only one number one class, and I get that. But you can't poo-poo one or the other. You need a nice little balance of both. And you want to keep your guys in-house as much as possible, your transfers, and you want to keep that down, and you want to utilize the transfer portal as much as possible. Now, you can't lean on the transfer portal. You look at this Mel Tucker. He got a huge extension, Pickles, with Michigan State last year. And, man, they are getting destroyed this year. 1 year later, after he signed the first year, great year, Mel Tucker, money. And then this year, they look bad. They look real. That's a huge, huge fall off for Michigan State just 1 year. Don't be surprised if maybe the team didn't act too soon on him and lose out. It happened with the former New England Patriot coach when he went to co-coach Notre Dame, Charlie Weiss. First year, he takes these other players. They play well. They win like 10 games. And then they give him the big 10-year, big money contract. And then they go down, down, down. They fired him like 2 or 3 years later. Unbelievable. But, you know, that's my observation. That it's really unprecedented. You have to watch how well do they recruit, how well do they coach. Don't lean too much into one or the other. And sometimes you have to have realistic expectations depending on what the coach is coming into, right? And another observation is this, the Alabama, they're very deep. No breaking news there. I mean, Bryce Young goes down, shoulder injury, you know, and I thought, man, I think maybe Arkansas is going to make this a game. Arkansas goes on a run. They put in this guy, Jalen Moreau. He runs for 91 yards and a touchdown. That's the quarterback. And then this Jamar Gibbs guy has 2 big runs for over 200 yards total. And then they come out. I mean, just depth for days. It's hard to be up week in and week out. So they deserve to be number one. They deserve to be number one. They're playing Texas A&M this week. They're going to beat Texas A&M this week. Their leading receiver for A&M's out. A&M lost last week to Mississippi State. This game will be played in Tuscaloosa. I haven't even looked at the point spread on that game yet because I know it'll fluctuate. But I bet they're probably a 15 to 17-point favorite. And if whatever Saban can do to beat Jimbo Fisher, he's going to. He's going to try to beat him, run it up as much as he can, if he can, because they have a deep, deep bench as well. But a lot of their players are extremely young. All those 5-star players are extremely young there. Yeah. Pickle says Bama by 25. Saban switched right to a running game. Yeah, he went right to the running game, and that was a problem with Arkansas. I thought Arkansas would keep it much closer. They didn't, and I think it was because Arkansas come off that big game the week before against A&M where they lost a heartbreaker, and then, they lose. Another team that came off a big game. Okay, this, who was it? I want to say, let me see here. Sam Hartman, keep that name in mind, with Wake Forest. Okay? Wake Forest 2 weeks ago put 45 points on Clemson, and that Clemson defense with 4 or 5 NFL guys, if they got anybody on their defense. One of them I know is a first-round pick because I was reading through some mock drafts, and his name come up. Clemson, they got All-Americans everywhere. This guy put 45 points on Clemson. 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. His name is Sam Hartman, plays for this guy up here in Wake Forest here. And I'm trying to figure out that coach's name here. And I think his name is Clausen or something like that. Either way, he used to be the offensive coordinator for University of Tennessee. And so then they played this big emotional game, 6 touchdowns against that great Clemson defense. Then they go on the road to Florida State and put 31 on Florida State. And Florida State's having off to an undefeated season. Remember, they beat LSU earlier this year. They came back and beat Louisville. And I was for sure after that big game against Clemson that they would be flat as a board. And, man, this guy looked unstoppable. Quick release, and he's eligible for to come out this year, come out next year. Now, like I already mentioned, guys like him, Hendon Hooker, Bryce Young, the Levis, the Kentucky quarterback, who they've had offensive line issues. Lane Kiffin has done a good job putting together a good staff and recruiting well down there. That was a big win for them, beating Kentucky. That guy, though, could be the number 1 overall pick. Levis, the quarterback for Kentucky. So we're not even talking about the small school guys. There's always 1 or 2 small school quarterbacks. So your Giant fans, even though Geno Smith is having a good month, let's not get crazy. Seattle Seahawks fans, possibly Atlanta fans. Davis Mills has had a bad couple of weeks. Maybe Houston's still in the line for a quarterback. You just never know. It looks like the Colts are going to be in line for a quarterback. The quarterback's going to be out there. They're going to be out there. It's just whoever they get set up. But, this guy, I was really surprised because I took FSU to win that game because they went overtime against Clemson. FSU looked totally discombobulated. They were home, and this guy is just cutting through that defense like a hot knife through butter, and there's just nothing FSU looked like they could do. Okay? But the Colts in line for quarterback, yeah, exactly. They got the lowest scoring offense in the league. 14 points average. And they've already been shut out. I think they're the only team that's been shut out this year. And I thought maybe Atlanta would get shut out, but that's not true. Atlanta's got some young talent there. So if you guys like the show, share the show. I will be back on tomorrow. I'll have John Mac McGrath. He goes by Mac. John McGrath is his email. Going to talk about the Giants. I'm going to ask him his thoughts on the Giants. I'm going to ask him some Aaron Judge questions. And I'm going to ask what was his thought of starting Northeast Streaming Sports and how he's doing. That's going to be real good. And then Thursday, we'll have Jack Hirsch on. Go through my list of questions with him. And then Friday, we'll have Mad New Yorker on. Break down next week's games. Big games. Tennessee playing LSU in college. Arizona playing Philadelphia in the NFL. That's just a few, one big college, one big NFL game, just to name a few, folks. So anyways, I will see you tomorrow here, same place, same time, 7 p.m. Central Time here on Sports Scope.